Now, cinema buffs will know that a live-action remake of the 1994 hit The Lion King is coming to a cinema screen near you sometime next year. But the movie's making news, at least in East Africa, for completely different reasons. Disney recently renewed a trademark it originally filed for over 20 years ago, the Swahili phrase Hakuna Matata. Now that roughly translates in English into no worries. But for the over 100 million Swahili speakers in Eastern, Central and Southern Africa, it has raised questions of cultural appropriation, and it has triggered quite a few angry headlines too. Earlier on, I spoke to Liz Lenjo. She's a Kenyan lawyer specializing in intellectual property law. Here's her argument as to why that anger isn't justified.
They only registered in class 25 so that they can do t-shirts, they can do caps, they can do vests and shoes and whatever. So which means they are only getting the exclusivity insofar as class 25 is concerned.
Right.
And exclusivity means it will just only they in whatever jurisdictions they have registered will do t-shirts and hats and caps and all this clothing apparel with Hakuna Matata. But it does not mean that nobody else can use it. In the US already, aside from Disney having trademarked Hakuna Matata, there are other companies that have also registered a trademark under different classes. Like there's nail polish called Hakuna Matata, there's hair oil called Hakuna Matata, there's even I think some software or something, like so many other sort of products and services with the Hakuna Matata registration.
We've seen instances of specific goods, like for example, I can't make cheese out of sheep's milk, call it Roquefort, and then sell it to the international market, because that would be breach of, I believe it's French rules and EU law as well, right? That whole designation of rules of origin around specific goods. So you can only call a product champagne if it comes from Champagne in France, or specific kind of cheese can only be called by whatever brand name they have if they come from particular parts of Europe. Why doesn't that apply here?
So this is another intellectual property asset we call geographical indications. Now, unfortunately, in Kenya, we've not ratified the International Treaty on GIs, so it doesn't exist here.
Given the fact that the EU has been negotiating economic partnership agreements with various regional economic blocs, the EAC, the Southern African Development Community, isn't the recognition of those geographical indicators part of the EPAs?
It should be, yeah. And you see, the thing for GIs, it's to also promote products made from a particular community or territory.
Right.
And then you're able to assert and identify certain characteristics that make your cheese Roquefort. Why do you call it Roquefort? It has a sweet, sour taste. There's a way you can actually describe how it tastes.
Right. So in this instance, because I hear your argument around this does not stop you from using Hakuna Matata as another company other than Disney. But by the same token, trade and commerce these days happens across borders, right? So for argument's sake, if I set up a t-shirt company today with branded Hakuna Matata t-shirts right here in Nairobi, and I believe you've seen them at the airports as we come in and out of the country, if I put those on eBay or Amazon and I sell them in the US, am I in breach of Disney's trademark rights in that territory?
Yes. Because now you'll be crossing over into the territory in which they're protected, because intellectual property is generally territorial. So as an applicant, I then do what is called designation. I decide which territories of business I want to register my brand, where it makes commercial sense.
Right.
And of course for Disney, the reason we have here Hakuna Matata t-shirts and Disney has never said anything is because they did not bother to register here. We are not their market. They know for us Hakuna Matata is just a normal phrase. I mean, who is interested in buying a t-shirt written Hakuna Matata, really? Probably not me and you.
Not in this market.
Yeah, exactly. But in the US, it's different. Swahili is viewed as an exotic language. It sounds interesting and whatnot. Together with the wild animals, what we are famous for. Voila, it's an easy marketing gimmick. You'll have, buyers.
And what's the legal precedent on how the monetization of cultural assets is handled, especially in the context of traditional ideas, traditional languages, traditional medicines, that sort of thing?
So now there's this new emerging area of intellectual property, a new asset that is currently under discussion at WIPO: traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions, as well as genetic resources. So that is a conversation now that's happening to figure out how we would then protect some of our local cultural properties. But the challenge that the system is currently facing and the conversations are currently facing is who owns what.
Right,
because when you
the
look,
best example would be the Masai Shuka, wouldn't
exactly,
it?
the Masai Shuka origins from Scotland. Yeah. So what exactly then do the Masai own? Is it the colors, the combination of blue and red? Mm-hmm. Is it the wool? Of course not. Mm-hmm. You know. So it's about that conversation. Then figure out what a repository would look like first. Then after that we can have a conversation about protection. But unfortunately we are doing things in reverse.